Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, the Common Magician, with a short little discussion here. Of course, our discussions are never short, but we'll try to be short. Yeah, let's start with an experiment. Experiments are fun. We've got a deck of cards here, and I've got, of course, very well-known cards, the four aces. We're just going to drop these into the deck, really anywhere. And very simply, we're going to take the cards, collect them all up, and we'll give it a shuffle. Give them a few shuffles. We'll keep this very, very confined here so that you can appreciate that the cards are being shuffled and there's no funny business going on. So we have a fully mixed deck of cards. Which we'll come back to this here in a minute. I wanted to talk with you about the subject of the lay person. The lay person. So you see this come up a lot whenever talking about magic, particularly talking shop. There'll be the use of this term, well, that would work good for the lay person, or this really slays lay people. This works good for the lay person. I want to talk about what the implications of that comment are in a broad range of angles here. One is that the suggestion about the layperson is really equivalent in magic as it is to its original form in terms of the sheer numbers of it, right? So the actual original usage of laity referred to religious organizations, and it referred to the people, all of the people who were not ordained. Okay, so not the clergy, but the people. And when you think about the ratio there, you're talking about those that were in the ministry being a very, 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 very small percentage, right? So within a congregational population, you would have, or a parish, you would have, one person as a shepherd or such, ordained minister over 100 or 200 or more people. That is kind of the I think ratio that is forgotten as we use the term laity in magic, because usually the only time you hear that term used is when magicians are talking to magicians, and it's usually when magicians are talking among many magicians, such as on social media, on internet forums, at a convention perhaps, at a session where many are together. And it really isn't a good, talking about it in that sense doesn't really set the picture, I think, properly, because it seems to suggest that the laity is kind of a smaller set of people, whereas the magicians, the people that have a knowledge, that's what the term has come to mean, is that it means with people with a professional insight, right? But it tends to imply that you have kind of this balance in proportion. You have magicians, and then you have people that don't know the secrets or whatever. And I would impress upon you that, as I've said before, that is just not the case. It's not a balanced group. When you talk about the laity, you're talking about everybody. I mean, you're talking about everybody. You're talking about the 99.999999999% of people, because nobody's into magic. Nobody's into magic. Nobody searches this stuff up. Nobody sits and thinks about it. Not with respect to what we would call somebody not being in the laity, right? Those people that have an insight to the methods and the secrets and the design of magical effects. So it's easy to use that term and think about it as sort of a demeaning category of magic, that something works good for lay people, but it's not, it only works good for lay people. It's really absurd to think about magical effects in that way, right, in terms of methods. I think it's better to think about methods as just plain fooling or not fooling, right? So some methods are deceptive and other methods are not deceptive to anybody. And that's just the case. Now, there's another implication to this discussion about the laity, which is just really interesting to me. And that is that when you talk about laity, we know that we're talking about people that don't have insight on methods. They don't know the secret. They don't know the operations. They don't know the procedures. They don't know what's happening behind the curtain to make something work, and they're on the outside of the effect. So this is the question I pose to you, is that when we're talking about the laity, what does that make you when you're fooled by a magical effect, right? When you see someone like Ossie Wind come out with something very clever, or Derek DelGaudio come out with something really interesting, you know, in a show, and it's just mind-blowing and it's just amazing, and most magicians look at that and say, oh, I'm not really sure where he's coming from with that and how that worked out. Or when you look at Penn and Teller Fool Us, and every now and then you see those foolers that come on, even some people that don't fool them, but they just get the rest of us, you know, they have a method there that we don't understand. What does that make you? What does that make you? Are you now the laity because you don't have an inside scoop on the method? You've now been essentially fooled as the rest have. It certainly can't be about those that subscribe to a magical occurrence, because the vast majority of people in the laity, the majority of the majority of the majority, they don't believe in magical occurrences either. They know full well that it is trickery and deception, right? That can't be what defines the laity. There is, I think, a tendency among certain magicians that have a certain philosophical concept about what they do, that things need to be magical, that they look magical and they feel magical, and the experience is magical in the true sense that it is supernatural in some way. The vast majority of people, while they will feel that sensation in the moment, they know better. So it can't be that. It really comes down to being fooled and being deceived by falling to the deception at hand, right? And that puts one in the laity. So this is a very dynamic term, isn't it? Particularly related to magical effects, because you could have insight into a wide variety of methods. You could be a lifelong learner and still get hit by a clever idea, maybe a new one, oftentimes an old idea that's been repurposed so well that it's unrecognized. So that's my discussion there. I don't like to use the term laity when it comes to magic. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, because when we're talking about deception, I don't think there really is kind of an encyclopedic boundary of what deception is. Deception can go in any direction, and it's really kind of quite egotistical and vain to suggest that there's insiders on the entire topic of deception versus outsiders. It really goes against many forerunners in magical thinking as well. Someone like James Randi and other skeptics like him, who had pioneered, not pioneered, but really brought about at a time when it was needed, the concept that absolutely everybody can be fooled. It doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter what you know. Even con men can be conned. In fact, there's a sense in which con men can be conned the easiest because of their understanding of their understanding. Or rather, you could say their misunderstanding of their understanding. Who are the lay people? All of us. All of us. We are all the lay people. It is the vast majority, and it is all of us all at the same time. It's kind of a crummy term, I think, in the use of magic. The last point I want to make on this is that the subject of the laity in magical conversations also brings about, I think, an error in thinking that somewhat suggests, just as a byproduct, that certain types of magic are not worthy. That if you're doing the magic that is known to those not in the laity, those people that are in the technical clergy, I guess is what you would say, right? The magicians, that are among the magicians, performing material that they would otherwise know is not worthy. And that makes no sense either. I think it's very easy to appreciate, as a magician, magic where I know exactly what's going on. There's a sense in which I appreciate it even in a way that others cannot, because I can see the response and I know what the work is going into it, or the lack of work. And I can appreciate the simplicity of things and the beauty of things and how easily a ruse can be put into action and be effective. That's how I appreciate magic when I'm looking at material that I'm in the know on. Magicians don't lose out when watching magic. I don't believe that for 1 minute. I don't think it can be ruined for us. In the same way that any other vocation really can't be ruined for somebody that does it. This idea of deception. It's open-ended. It's unlimited. And just merely knowing the tools of deception that are being in play doesn't mean that I can't appreciate it and enjoy the moment considerably. In fact, I can prove it to you. Where do magicians love to hang out? With other magicians. What do they like doing? Things that they all know. It's why you're here, right? Half the time when we're discussing here, just me ranting and you listening and then responding, you're often seeing things that you know, things that you understand, you have an appreciation for, yet you keep coming back. And we keep going to those forums and we keep going to those other channels. And some of you that are in magic clubs, you keep meeting together on a regular basis to jam together and to do magic together, even though you have an understanding of what's going on. It's an enjoyable experience. So that's my quick little rant on the laity. Let's see what the condition of the cards are here. If we take a look, we can see absolutely no aces in the deck whatsoever. Empty box at the start. What do we have? Aces. So, did it fool you? I don't know. What I do know is that merely having an understanding and prior knowledge of double stick tape does not necessarily mean that you would catch this out, right? Because everybody knows, the lay people know about double stick tape. Even magicians know about double stick tape and its uses, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they would recognize the application in a magical effect, right? Knowledge of methods, inside information, the understanding of materials and their use, that doesn't mean you can't be fooled. And it doesn't mean that you're not in the laity. Welcome to the laity. Good luck with that. Happy magicking.